Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a quick one, I think. I think, I believe I'm going to take a couple of days off doing these after whatever it is, 4 months of daily YouTube. I'm coming up to taking a little break from doing everything, actually. I'm finishing off little jobs and things. I've got some edits to do on something. And I've got two synopses for two different book projects, three synopses in with different publishers, hoping for some kind of fruition or contracting situation, hopefully. And I've delivered a full novel that I've been working on for 6 months. Spending 6 months writing a novel seems, and I keep thinking about this, so luxurious. In recent years, 2 or 3 months has been the time I've been able to get for doing a first draft of books. So 6 months has given me time to focus on this project. Because it's in a new genre, it needed the time, and because it's on spec, it needs to be exactly right by the time I hand it in, which I did today. So clearing my desk, although as you see, I rarely sit at my desk. I sit in this armchair, my reading chair, with my laptop on a writing board that was made for me by Sue Perryman a few years ago. It's a drawing board and a writing board and a desk and a cat on my lap, of course. Socks is out at the moment because it's the afternoon and it's time for him to stomp around even when it's warm like this, and go and look at neighbouring cats and cause bother, probably. What I'm looking forward to, as I keep saying, is some uninterrupted reading time. I hope that that actually manifests itself. I've been building this shelf of books in different genres, as I described the other day: short stories, kids' books, actual novels, miscellanies, tie-ins, literary biography, showbiz biography, rock biography, gay novels, science fiction comics, and fairy tales. I suddenly realised this is also the time that I take things down from the shelf that are in kind of big format illustrated books. And this morning, I dipped into this lovely Michael Foreman book from 1990. He's one of my favourite artists, as I think I keep saying. I should do a whole video on him at some point about the books I've collected over the years by him. I probably have as much by him as I have by Quentin Blake, my other favourite. They've both always been there. Look at this reindeer. It's a Canadian fairy tale, this one. The book is about world fairy tales. And just dipping in, they're really wonderful. I have to be in the right mood for them because they're a bit kind of quixotic and sometimes a bit sentimental. But I mean, folktales generally, of course, they're always rounded out by solid, good sense, especially when somebody like Angela Carter's doing the telling. This there's an Inuit one here and a Canadian one, and I love stories in which orphan boys become ravens by putting on a cap and a cape and flying off to find out where the sun has gone, or the deer in the Canadian one here making plans with the rainbow to go and explore the realms of the sky where turtles gone off to live in a cloud, a black cloud because it's full of rivers and ponds and things that turtles like. There's something that just gets my, captures my imagination about stories like that, and they always have. But these pages just make me gasp because the colours are so delicious when Foreman does them. I think I've said before, when I adapted Peter Pan and The Wizard of Oz for Audible 5 years ago, it was 5 years ago in the summer, I spent all that time doing these 4 hour long dramatizations. I used the text as presented in his illustrated versions to help me. And that was really useful because the books are spaced out so nicely. And the imagery that he uses was perfect for what I was doing. I've just realised I've got just above my head his his illustrations for the Puffin 20th Century Children's Stories collection that Judith Elkin edited in, I think, 89. I've got numerous copies of this and I've gifted copies to people over the years. It's one of the best anthologies of kids' stories. They're all excerpts from Puffins, beginning with Rudyard Kipling and going all the way through to Anne Fine. And when I picked this up in 89, I was about to do my MA. Maybe it was 91. Anyway, 91 it came out. So it was exactly when I started my MA. And I was thinking about fairy tales and myth and fantasy and how it intersects with contemporary fiction. And of course, I was reading Salman Rushdie, Angela Carter, Jonathan Carroll, Neil Gaiman, all these people. It was all coming together for me, this idea that magical realism was the place where fairy tales and myth met contemporary fiction. But I did have to catch up with Puffin books because I hadn't read them for so long. And you can see in this, it covers 100 years. And you can see that it gets to about the early 80s, and I stopped keeping up with what was coming out sometime around 3/4 of the way through the book. And this afforded me the chance to read people like Susan Cooper. I hadn't read her till I was 21. And it made me go off and read the whole of The Dark is Rising that autumn that I did my MA. And that was magical. And you could still go to the Waterstones in town and they would have all the Puffins, and everything was about £2.50 still in those days. And so even as a student, I could buy a yard of Puffins week in, week out. Not a yard every week. There was also in Lancaster, just down the road, and I think it's still there from what people tell me, a bookshop called Atticus Books that smelled wonderfully of old books, but also coffee, real coffee. And I think it was the first time, it sounds so poor, but I don't think I'd even been anywhere that had kind of proper roast ground coffee. There were so many things to do with being at Lancaster. It was the first of everything. And they had a back room that was filled with secondhand Puffin books, all about £1 each. So I collected up all sorts then and went back to things like Edith Nesbit and Clive King, Stick of the Dump. The other Michael Foreman book that fell off the shelf there was this version of this edition of Daphne du Maurier's Spooky Tales, which I wasn't aware of till earlier this year, and immediately got myself a fancy copy of for not very much on eBay. It's so strange. Sometimes you can get these heavy, gifty, arty books for quite cheap secondhand because people don't want to give time and space to books so much, which is terrible, really, I think. Look at them. He's so good at doing macabre stuff like that. It could be that people just don't want to fill their houses with books in the way that I do. And here's pictures from Don't Look Now. This is going to be fun. I think I might save this for autumn, actually. Classics of the macabre. And spend some time rereading Daphne du Maurier. I'm going to pull these off the shelf and everything's going to fall on me, isn't it? Where was I going with this? It was to do with reading fairy tales, wasn't it? Illustrated fairy tales. And the summer being the time for that. Although I don't see how that's any different to the winter. Or the autumn either, actually. thinking about it. I suppose it's time you spend and you're not piling through things and setting yourself challenges and targets and all those things. I really can't be doing with all of that. I prefer to make my own way through things. Anyway, I'm going to go and read. That's what I'm going to do. I hope all of you are having a pleasant week. Actually, the sun's just gone in. Yesterday, after spending my whole day working indoors, when it was boiling hot and sunny, I finished work and at about 6 o'clock sat outside thinking I'm going to sit in this sun trap under the awning, drink up the last of the sun and have a cup of tea, and the sun went in after about 20 minutes. It was hopeless, but it's better than getting sunstroke, I guess. I used to like sitting outside all day long, but I think not so much now. Anyway, I'm going to go. I will see you again soon in the next episode. There might be a gap between this one and the next one, but don't worry, I am coming back. Goodbye.